Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open business here and let's wake up the football gods. It is Monday morning. We have the Eagle trolls that are descending upon us as we speak right now, like a plague of locusts. Congratulations to them, headed to the Super Bowl. And instead of us being mad at the Eagles, we should actually take some lessons and some notes from the Eagles. The Eagles team that were the runner-up in our division last year, that there were questions about Jalen Hurts. And don't anybody start saying, you're just throwing shade at Jalen Hurts. Well, the thing is the Philadelphia Eagles decided we're in with Jalen Hurts until we're not. We're going to do everything that we can to make him succeed. And if he doesn't, we have a backup plan where we have a couple of first-round picks where we can go through and get a quarterback. Hate the Eagles as much as you want, but they had a plan. They had a plan. And they said, we're not just going to put him out there and say, you're going to do this by yourself. They surrounded him with talent. Great offensive line. Went out and got him playmakers. But I dare say that yesterday, it was not Jalen Hurts' arm that beat San Francisco. That secondary of San Francisco is a beast. It was a running game. It was the running game that led that team. And, of course, San Francisco losing two quarterbacks. That's the lesson that we need to take away. Understand that when you're in the regular season, hey, a lot of things work. When it hits the playoffs, shit gets tight. It gets tight. It gets harder to do things. The weather is colder. The conditions are worse. The players are worn down. And that's when you've got to be able to run the football. And in the playoffs, to a man, you can go back with all of the years that we have been agonizing and dying, and we have not been able to run the football. Kellon Moore, listen, I got nothing against Kellon Moore. Kellon Moore has done some really good things, but I think Kellon Moore is limited in that playoff experience category. Coming from a backup quarterback with the Lions, coming from being the Dallas Cowboys backup under Scott Linehan, you haven't had much experience in being successful in playoffs. He has not been around other teams other than the Cowboys and the Lions. And we know how bad we've been in the playoffs. I think Kellon Moore will be great, and I think it's the best thing for Kellon Moore is to get out of the spotlight of the Dallas Cowboys. To give you an example, I want you to think about this. Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay were both on the Washington Commanders' training staff, on their staff. They didn't become the guys that they were being in Washington, but you are a product of everything around you. And so I wish Kellon Moore the best of luck. I'm sure he will get employed very quickly by some teams. I'm hearing Tampa Bay. I'm trying to imagine Kellon Moore calling plays for Tom Brady, but you know what? Stranger things have happened. The question will be is, what are the Cowboys here doing? Is there actually a plan? Or are we just making changes just for the change's sake? Because I'm wondering here because this is now 8 coaches that we've gotten rid of. 8 coaches. When we failed last year, we kept pretty much the status quo. Now, I think that this is going to be the evolution where you can read the writing on the wall is Dan Quinn came back, one, because he loves working with the defense in this team, and he does love being with the Dallas Cowboys. But also, too, in the back of his mind, he has to be thinking, this could be mine. This is my apprenticeship here for the Dallas Cowboys. And if you're Mike McCarthy, going into your fourth year, which is the pivotal year, that this is sink or swim. Now, for everybody that's hating on Mike McCarthy and, Mike McCarthy sucks, fire him, I want you to think back to when we hired Jason Garrett. The first season we had 5-3. The next year we had 8-8, followed by 8-8, followed by 8-8. And then we finally had a really good season, 12-4. Lose our quarterback, and we go 4-12. We've already had back-to-back playoff seasons, 2 out of 3 seasons winning records. The one we didn't, we lost our quarterback for the whole season. The team has actually done some good things. We have turned a defense around where we have been a laughingstock at defense. But we need more. It's easy to go ahead and say, well, shit, we need the Super Bowl. But you got to first learn how to crawl before you can walk, and you got to learn to walk before you can run. And I think that this is Mike McCarthy saying, we've tried it your way, Jerry. Either fire me or let me do it my way. If it doesn't work, you can still fire me. And this is where we'll probably be installing, my hope is the West Coast offense. Now, one reason why I think the West Coast offense would actually suit Dak better is when we think about the dynamic of Dez Bryant and Dak Prescott. Dez Bryant, Tony Romo worked great. Why? Because Tony Romo, pocket would break down, Tony Romo would buy time, and he would find guys that were open. It was make the shit up on the fly. That's not really Dak Prescott's game. And a lot of times we look at Dak Prescott and we say, well, why did he throw that pass? Because most of the passing, and that what Dak is really good at, is the timing routes. A lot of times when you are doing these timing routes, you don't understand. You're throwing to a spot. You're not looking for the receiver to see who's open. It's like 1, 2, 3, fire. And you need to be at that spot. Problem with Dez Bryant was sometimes Dez Bryant's spot might be a yard closer, might be a yard further. And so you didn't have that cohesion that you need to with that type of offense. Another problem with this offense is so much of it is we're doing curl routes and bringing guys back and stuff and stop routes. The West Coast offense is more predicated on quick hitting, faster getting the ball out your hands, throwing to spots, the slants across the middle, giving the guys ball where they can make plays. It's more dynamic. It's quicker hitting. It's going to be, your head has to be on a swivel covering the guys, which means you're going to need more dynamic type of players, speedsters. If you think about where the West Coast offense actually came from, we all talk about it with Bill Walsh, but really Bill Walsh took what he had learned from Air Coryell. Air Coryell, the Chargers, was the first team to really be a modern passing offense where it wasn't so much about running the football traditionally between the tackles. It was Charlie Joyner getting the ball on screen passes, getting the ball in space and being able to move. It was using your tight end and Kellen Winslow, Hall of Famer. It was going, quick hitting and deep routes. This is where the Cowboys need to be, because your offensive line, when you're doing all of these deep routes, you've got to hold up for a long time. We have a running game that's predicated on basically mauling people. You have a different type of offensive lineman. You're going to be doing more stuff, screenplays, where they're going to be pulling in things. You're going to be doing more zone blocking and so on, and it's going to be quicker hitting. So this is going to be, if we are truly, really evolving, if we're really saying, with the coaches we have, Skip Pete, you're gone because we're not going to be between the tackles type of a offense. Zeke Elliott, you're gone. But you think about the type of running backs that were super successful with San Francisco. Roger Craig, 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing. And this is more of an offense that's like death by 1,000 cuts. I'm excited. I thought when we first hired Mike McCarthy that it was going to be a West Coast offense, and that's what we're going to do. But the powers that be, Jerry and Stephen Jones, deflected to Kellon Moore. Well, now it's going to be sink or swim with Mike McCarthy. We don't know how it's going to work, and we always say, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it, and maybe it ends up being a disaster for Mike McCarthy because at some point they ended up taking away play calling from him. But I will defer to Mike McCarthy with his ass on the line, with his offense, and a change over Kellon Moore's and his experience. No disrespect to Kellon Moore, but I think you need to change. And I think you need to change the people that are there to get people on their toes. And that's why I like what we're doing right now. Now, if it ends up being, we end up doing just changing the coaches and keep the status quo with everything else, no, I don't think that's it. You've got to also pull a Rams, pull an Eagles, pull a Tampa Bay, and you have to get talent to go along with this. They've been saying, blow it up. Blow it up. In some regards, this is definitely a little implosion here with the Cowboys and the change of all these coaches. I think we're going to see quite a few players that we have been familiar with that will no longer be with the Cowboys. I'm curious to hear what Get Up has to say this morning. We know that Dan Orlowski is best buddies with Kellon Moore. Let's see how they take the move, of course, with Kellon Moore. The funny thing, this is the thing I find comical, actually, is they always tell the Cowboys, you should do this, this, and this. We've been hearing, Kellon Moore should go. Get rid of him. Then when you actually do that, then they're going to go back and say, well, they shouldn't have done that. Why did they do that? This guy was good. They're always going to go the opposite direction. Now let's see how they go this morning.
With their offensive coordinator, Kellon Moore, sources telling ESPN it is possible that Mike McCarthy will take over play-calling responsibilities, but that no decisions have been made. During Moore's 4 seasons as the OC, the Cowboys were first in total offense twice, top 6 in scoring 3 times, and the only time that they weren't anywhere near that was the year that Dak Prescott got hurt and basically missed the entire season. So, was this the right move for the Cowboys to make, Ryan Clark?
I think it is the right move. When you look at this team, this is the move that tells Mike McCarthy, this is your last move. This is your last opportunity to get this right. When you look at this team failing in the playoffs the last 2 seasons and failing offensively, you say, okay, the quarterback's not going to change. We're going to stick with the offensive-minded head coach. Well, that means you have to do something at the offensive coordinator position. Now, I don't know if that's to allow Mike McCarthy to call plays. Has he continued to grow with the game enough, to be creative enough, to be locked in enough to help Dak Prescott and his offense excel? I do not know. But what I do know was it had gotten stale with Kellon Moore, and we talk all the time about how many points they score offensively. This is a team that had 229 points off of turnovers that led the entire league. So 23% of what they got came because of their defense in the last 2 seasons. And so now, how do you create those type of points, that type of dent in defenses with an offensive coordinator?
Rex, you said a really interesting thing to us in our meeting this morning, that sometimes when you're a coach and you know your job is on the line, that you want to go down swinging, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to lean on yourself. And to me, this is something right here. He knows, McCarthy knows one thing. Like, this is tough to do. When you got to call one side of the ball and be the head coach, it's tough. It means your time commitment is doubled. Right. It really has. Your preparation time, all that type of stuff. has literally doubled. Is he ready for it right now? He stepped away from, now you're going to step back in. But I truly believe he did it for one reason, what you guys said.
Yeah.
It's because it's on the line right now. And his butt's to the fire, so to speak. I'm going to go down with myself over somebody else. I also think Kellon Moore, to his credit,
I think by Wednesday.
I think he's an outstanding offensive coordinator. I call him Boy Wonder and all that stuff. But this guy, there's 14 openings for offensive coordinator. He's going to get a job in a New York minute.
Yeah, if I was Tampa Bay, I'd make a call to Kellon Moore. Let me say this about Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's making this move because he thinks he's the only one who can fix Dak Prescott. That's simply put. Fix, get back to whatever we want to phrase it as. Yep. He thinks he's the only guy. Because he obviously doesn't think that Kellon Moore can take him to the next level. He doesn't think that anybody else who's available can take him to the next level. So it's the situation where my job is going to be dependent on how well the quarterback plays because the team is pretty darn good. And if the talent on defense stays there, and if the quarterback plays up to some of the levels that he's played at, well, this is a team that can play with anybody in the NFC. So Mike McCarthy's sitting there going, I'm the only guy who can get it done, and the pressure's on.
Quick, put a ribbon on it for me. Quick final thought.
I think the biggest thing is this. This is Mike McCarthy's make it or break it year. Yeah. If they don't play well offensively, and I believe if they don't play well early, that Dan Quinn becomes the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's why he's still in the building, and Kellon Moore no longer is.
Yeah, I related to what Rex said, and I think we can all relate to that to some degree. If you're going to go down, you want to go down swinging. You want to go down. You don't want to go out by saying, I didn't even get to give it my best shot. So I think that's what's happening here. We'll see if they can turn it around. College basketball coming your way.
There we go. So, again, what this is going to mean is this is a change in philosophies completely. You need your offensive linemen to be able to get downfield. This is where it's a younger man's game. This is where having a Tyler Smith, who is great at blocking downfield, a Zach Martin, a great guard, is great at getting downfield. And this is where you look at somebody like Tyron Smith, who his hamstring ripped off the bone trying to get downfield. This is a change of having younger, quicker guys. It's not so much mauling anymore. This is where your tight end needs to be a good pass catcher in traffic and a good blocker, which means that this may mean that Dalton Schultz doesn't fit with what you're trying to do. Dalton Schultz is a better pass catcher and not as good as a blocker. This may mean that Peyton Hendershot and Jake Ferguson take on bigger roles. Your running backs are more of outside, they're going to be in the passing game more than just running between the tackles. And this is what Mike McCarthy loves. Mike McCarthy doesn't want to be a ground and pound. He loves passing the football. And you need to have your quarterback. You're going to be moving your quarterback around. You're going to be doing more bootlegs. You're going to be moving the pocket around, which suits Dak Prescott better. And it's going to be more timing routes. It's going to be quicker hitting. So it's going to be a sea change. But I think in the grand scheme of things, if you get slant passes with a guy like CeeDee Lamb, where you give him the ball in space, when you get a Tony Pollard and give him the ball in space, where you're able to get these offensive linemen downfield, lead blocking, this is going to be more dynamic than what we've had with these curl routes. It just is. It just is. So I'm excited. I'm happy. We'll have to wait and see what the Cowboys' plan here is going forward. If they're done letting people go, as far as the coaching staff, at this point, it's now time to start getting everybody into the fold and start planning on who of these 30 free agents are coming back and who are going to be going. And we're going to start working through and going through each and every one of the ones that we have to figure out who should stay and who should go. I'm Mark Holmes, and I hope you're having a great day. And maybe this softens the blow a little bit of the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl.
Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Sports Report.